Hi, you have the degrees, you have the years of experience, you have the flawless track record, and you're already in the job. So, why does it feel as though you're on trial every single time you walk into that meeting? Hi, everyone, I'm Natasha Williams, and today we're going to talk about the phenomenon that exists in almost every corporate and professional space, yet rarely gets talked about. Through my independent research with over 1,000 Black professionals across the UK, US, Canada, and Australia, spanning more than 30 industries and every career level from entry to C suite, I've identified a framework called the 15 Taxes of Excellence. So, this is the cost of Black excellence. And like I say, I told my story last week. Natasha Williams, former managing director and building surveyor. I experienced burnout myself, and I retrained as a trauma informed coach. And whilst I was working with quite a lot of Black professionals, I asked the question, what is burnout actually costing us? So that's what became the research, the cost of Black excellence. So last week, I talked about the performance tax, and I'm going through another foundation tax called the proof tax. Um, that the taxes, the foundation tax, are the baseline credibility costs that Black professionals pay before they can begin work they were actually hired to do. So today we're zooming in one of the most exhausting foundational taxes. We're going to unpack the proof tax. So, what is the proof tax? The proof tax is the constant degrading demand placed on Black professionals to validate their credentials, their intelligence, and their right to be in the room. It's a systemic reality that your competence is never assumed, it must always be proven. While other professionals are hired and promoted based on their potential, Black professionals are routinely forced to prove their past performance over and over again, often to people who are less qualified than they are. This isn't just a feeling, it's measurable, it's systemic. The research documents it in specific recurrent patterns, being questioned about your role despite having a clear title, having your expertise scrutinized, and having to explain logic that your colleagues accept without question from someone else. And to understand it fully, we need to listen to what people who are paying it say. One of the participants described the entry into professional spaces like this. Our competence is questioned before we open our mouths. We walk into the rooms where our education, experience, and excellence are muted by a gaze that sees colour before capability. So for many, being black is a pre-written script. Too often, we're generalized as diversity hires, dismissed as overly emotional, or assumed to be underqualified, even when we've exceeded expectations tenfold. That's a quote from one of the respondents in the research. Exceeded expertise tenfold. There's an insidious nature of the phrase diversity hire. The proof tax forces Black professionals to over credential themselves. We go back to school, we get another degree, we get another certification, hoping that finally those qualifications will be enough to protect us from the scrutiny. But it rarely does. I know working as a building surveyor, I was constantly questioned about my skills, my qualifications. How long have you been in this job, Natasha? Are you actually qualified to do this job? And the data backs this up. Black professionals with advanced degrees report being asked whether they attended university. Black managers report being regularly mistaken for junior staff. Black executives report having decisions questioned in ways their white peers never encounter. These patterns occur regardless of actual qualifications. That's what the research shows. The burden of proof reflects bias, not capability gaps. So when I asked the question within the research, um, it showed that there was no, in terms of working harder than white colleagues, um, 83% said that across the board said that they were working harder than white colleagues always or often across every industry in the study. So here's what makes it more striking: 91% of professionals in education, 93% in technology, 88% in law report working harder always or often than their white colleagues. In sectors that publicly celebrate expertise, merit, and intellectual achievement, and forgive me, I always struggle with this word, the metra, oh, I can't pronounce it. Where the thing is that industries claim to uphold doesn't protect the professionals inside them. Technology, in particular, sustains a powerful self narrative, the idea that code runs itself or doesn't. The work speaks for itself. The data comprehensively challenges that. Black professionals in tech face persistent questioning of their technical decisions by colleagues with fewer skills and watch work they produce get attributed to someone else. This is where the concept of imposed syndrome becomes critical. And I'll go into depth about imposed syndrome on a different day. Sometimes what is often labeled imposter syndrome in Black professionals is actually something else entirely. The hypervigilance, the self doubt, the sense of not belonging within these organizations. They're not psychological deficits. They're rational responses to an environment that actively and repeatedly signals that your presence is conditional. We didn't arrive feeling like imposters. The workplace imposed that feeling on us, and the data confirms it. Right, I see we've got a couple of comments here. Overperformance is the road to burnout and it has to stop. Thank you for that, Selena. The definition of privilege is always being given the benefit of the doubt. Thank you so much for those comments. Now, some people might argue that the need to prove themselves is just part of corporate life, but the data shows that the proof tax is not applied equally. For Black professionals, the goalposts are constantly moving. Listen to this stark reality from another participant within the study. And this is within my field. I had to obtain MRICS status just to get promoted, which is basically a chartered surveyor, um, just to get promoted to director. And it was clear that I could go no further unless this was achieved. Yet my colleague, who had been in the position for 3 years, still had not achieved this and was able to secure the position without it. And that is the reality for a lot of Black professionals within the surveying sector. We just don't get that promotion, or it takes a long time for us to get that promotion. This isn't about culture fit or soft skills. This is undeniable, measurable double standard. When the proof tax is in effect, the rules of HR, promotion, and leadership apply selectively. The numbers make this impossible to dismiss. A Black female lawyer in the research took 23 years to reach partner. Her white male colleague reached the same level in 5 years. Same profession, same formal credential requirements, same stated standards. Law carries the highest exit rate of any sector in this study. 32% of Black legal professionals have already left. Finance isn't far behind with 27%. Education sits at 26%. The proof tax isn't a minor inconvenience, it's a primary driver of departure. And when professionals leave, they don't just take their expertise with them, They take their mentorship capacity for those coming in behind them, their institutional knowledge, and their potential sponsorship for the next generation. So the exhaustion of watching white colleagues ascend the ladder seamlessly with fewer qualifications while you are blocked by red tape and arbitrary new requirements is documented at scale throughout the research. The proof tax is woven into the infrastructure of the organization and it doesn't require individual bad actors. It runs on default assumptions that nobody has questioned and no one is measuring until now. So, this brings us to the final and perhaps most frustrating layer of the proof tax, the authority discount. Even when you pay the tax, even when you jump through the hoops and get the title, your authority is still discounted. Another senior level respondents shared this. Despite an exemplary track record, I find myself having to justify myself in ways that my white counterparts don't have to. I have to repeatedly have my recommendations checked by white men who aren't nearly as qualified as me to have an opinion on the relevant subject. Another respondent said an expert in their field described Another respondent, an expert in their field, described it this way. They contact people who are not experts, who advise them to discuss their queries with me directly, and the worst feeling is being voiceless. There's an emotional and somatic toll of this total disrespect, in my opinion. It affects the person's mental health to be the smartest person in the room, the designated expert, and still be second guessed. So the data tells us exactly what it does. 58% of black professionals do not feel psychologically safe expressing opinions at work. More than half. They've learned from direct, repeated experience their visibility invites challenge, so they go quiet. And brilliant professionals withhold their ideas because the friction of proving their validity is simply too exhausting. The health consequences are measurable and severe. 63% report significant or severe health impacts from their working environment. 66% experience persistent fatigue that doesn't lift after rest. 65% report sleep disturbances and insomnia. 57% report burnout or emotional collapse. They're not just physiological consequences of sustained hypervigilance, a nervous system that can fully settle because the environment keeps signaling threat. And the exit data shows where this ends up. So 92% of senior managers, 89% of directors and executives have considered leaving their role to protect their mental or emotional well-being. So nearly every senior black professional in this research have had the thought, I can't keep doing this. The proof tax is a primary reason why. The silence it produces leads to brilliant professionals withholding their ideas because the friction of proving their validity is simply so exhausting. Organizations lose contribution they're claiming to want from the very professionals they recruited diversity initiatives to attract. So the proof tax is designed to make you doubt yourself as a black professional. It's designed to keep you busy, validating your own existence so that you don't have the energy left to disrupt the status quo. If you're a black professional listening to this and you've been endlessly updating your CV, your LinkedIn profile, your resume, rehearsing your emails to sound more competent, using AI to rewrite your emails and doing all sorts, and swallowing the disrespect of being second guessed by your juniors. Hear me clearly. You've already paid the tax. Your presence in the room is proof enough. Your excellence is not up for debate. And it's not your job to cure someone else's conscious or unconscious bias. The data from over 1,000 black professionals across 4 countries says this plainly. This burden of proof reflects bias, not capability gaps. It doesn't diminish with seniority. It doesn't respond to more qualifications. It responds to structural change. And if you're a leader or an ally listening to this, I challenge you to look at your organization today. Look at who you promote on potential and who you force to provide a decade of proof. Look at the career trajectories side by side. Look at your exit data and ask yourself who's leaving and why. Look at your psychological safety scores broken down by race. And when you find what I found across over 1,000 black professionals in 30 plus industries across 4 countries, you will have an answer. So it's time to stop auditing black excellence and start auditing the systems that refuse to recognize it. So, for Black professionals, I've created a community where you're able to exhale and talk about your experience in a safe space. We have a brilliant coach that comes in every Tuesday, an executive coach called Selena, and she sits on the tax break and gives advice and encouragement to those that need it. And there are professionals in the community that can help you every step of the way. Organizations, if you'd like your black professionals or your brown professionals to gain access to the community to actively protect and retain your diverse talent while at the same time fulfilling your procurement and ESE goals by investing directly into certified social enterprise, contact me directly. Thank you so much. I'm Natasha, and this is the cost of Black excellence. Are there any questions? I see we have a couple of comments here. Oh, these are terrifying figures. Of course, people want to lose. This is more than just a coincidence, it's systemic. Thank you for that. Organizations need to be honest about their promotion criteria. Indeed. And the thing is that what I found across the research is that people are getting these jobs, they're getting in, but they're not getting on. So it's something that organizations need to look at deeply. Why are people not getting promoted? Why have you brought them in the first place? And a lot of people have a lot more um, it is proven, especially across the UK and US, that a lot of black talent come into your organizations with more qualifications, more experience, and they're able to do the job. But just working in that particular way is actually exhausting them. What are the first steps organizations can take? Let me just see if I can get. Well, the thing is, one of the first steps that the organisation can take is to contact me at the Cost of Black Excellence. We have a scorecard where Black professionals can go through, take an audit of their skills to see what burdens, what of the 15 burdens are affecting them, so that they can use this as a way to come into the community. So everything is tailored to the individual. As I say, with the tax break, we're able to we are it is a live event that happens on Tuesday. We've changed the time to 8 p.m. because we have accounted for those that are traveling. So that starts at 8 p.m. Myself is in there. I'm a trauma informed coach, and Selena Yankson is also in the group, and she's an executive coach, and she can walk you through what is going on in your workplace. We also have law experts coming in on our first class Fridays, which is ongoing, and there are various courses that are coming into the community. So basically, the first step is to contact me at the cost of Black Excellence. Get an audit for your employees or for your whole organization, and we can just take it from there. Thank you. Any more questions? Right, if there are no more questions, I'm going to end the live stream. And it was great to see you. And I will be back next week with the perfection tax, which is the last of the foundation taxes. And that is the demand to maintain flawless performance at all times. See you next Thursday, 3 p.m. UK time. Thank you very much.